it's Ginger from StampingTheCape.com, and I'm here with a technique that I've seen recently floating around on Pinterest and YouTube, and it's called die cutting off the edge. So I was trying to figure out what stamp set would really work nicely with this and be kind of fun, and I've picked the Magical Day stamp set that I'm using on this card. As you can see, the characters are coming off the top of the card, and then I'm coordinating that with the dies that go with it. Unfortunately, I forgot their name, but I will post that on my blog. So anyway, I want to show you how this technique is done, and it's really simple, but it gives a nice little impact, something different on your card. So what you're going to do is you're going to start off with a 5.5 by 8.5 piece of cardstock, and you're going to find the center point, which is 4 1/4, and then you're going to take your Big Shot and you're going to line up whatever dies you decide to use just below that pencil line. So I'm going to use the wizard and the dragon and the knight. So what I'm going to do, is just put them just below that pencil line. And you probably could use your score line on this, but I'm following the directions that I saw, so I won't lead you astray. And then I'm putting the dragon just below that score line, right next to each other, and then the knight. They just barely fit across. Actually, I just put them up a little bit more. There. Okay. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to lay my plate so that they don't cut all the way through. I want this portion to stay intact. So you're going to take your top plate and you're just going to line it up. You've got this beveled edge, so you're going to go right in between the bevel and line up that line, that pencil line that you drew, right to the middle of the bevel. And then you're going to run it through, because what it will do is it will cut those images through the top but not through the bottom. Okay. I don't need this right now, so we're done with that part. So as you can see, your images are cut up here, but they're still attached to this bottom piece. So what we're going to now do is we're going to use the Stampin' Trimmer and cut in between each of those characters along that line. So I'm going to cut this piece in between here, and that little piece. Ooh, did that guy get cut? Oh gosh, there was a die attached, a little seahorse die attached to the dragon. That's okay, because we're going to cover that up anyway. That's fine. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to line up my cards and line up that pencil line along the cutting line of my trimmer. And if you don't have a trimmer, you can always use like one of those X-Acto blades or craft knives and a ruler, and just make sure you have a cutting surface underneath so you don't cut into a table or something like that. So I'm going to just carefully cut along, and hopefully, yep, that's good. And I'm going to start right at the edge there and cut over to the dragon, and then if anything, if I miss anything, I can always go back with a snips and just finish that trim. And then I'll just go up. And sometimes with these, especially, I'm using the regular Whisper White. The first time I used thick Whisper White, and you can feel it kind of click into those cut lines. So, put this away for a moment. So now you just take that off, and if I need any extra snipping, I can just go in with my, like I said, with my snips. I think I did a pretty good job. Just one little piece there. So there you have your pieces. So now what you want to do is you want to measure this so it'll fit into your envelope. You want to measure from here down 4 1/4, because that's going to be your length. And this piece, I forgot to, this is 5 1/2. So I'm just going to, I think the Wizard is probably the tallest sticking up there. So I'm going to measure 4 1/4 and mark it with my pencil. And that measures from the bottom. Let's see, it's about 1 3/4. So I'm going to make it 1 3/4. And if I need to trim a little off, I will after. But just so it makes it an easier cut. Yeah, I think we'll go with that for now. I'm going to trim that little bit off. Actually, I can go a little bit less. Okay. So this hopefully should fit into our envelope. Let's check it out. Let's take an envelope and see how we did. Tricky getting all the parts. Yep, so that's going to just fit in our envelope. Perfect. So now what we're going to do is you want to create a base for this card. Now on this one, it does make a little short card, but that's okay. If you're not big into writing, it could work out perfectly. So you end up with a smaller card. So what I've done is I measured how long this was. So this is like 2.5, roughly 2.5 inches. You might have to do a little trimming. So double 2.5 is 5 inches. So I'm going to cut a 5 1/2 by 5 inch piece of cardstock, and I'm going to do Whisper White. So let's do our 5 1/2. By 5. And then I'm going to score this at the 2 1/2, and we'll fold this piece in half. So now what you're going to do is you're going to mount this piece onto the front of your card, and so now you've got your pop-up die cuts, and you're good to go. But what I'm going to do first is I found that after I was playing around and deciding on what I wanted to put on my card, this one is going to a dear friend who's going through a difficult time right now. So by the time I realized what stamp I wanted to put on the inside, I was dealing with my characters, and I had to take the chance of stamping it with the texture on the back. Unfortunately, it came out okay, but you might want to stamp your inside sentiment while you still have your card flat. So I'm going to do another one with, and I'm using my Stamp-A-Majig, because I never trust myself. I haven't got my new Stamparatus yet, so it's supposed to be coming, and I, in fact, just emailed our demonstrator support to find out if it's still on schedule, because I haven't heard anymore. I really want to use it. Okay, so there. I probably will still use my Stamp-A-Majig for quick things like this, but anyway, all right, so that's that. So we'll attach this to the front, and that should fit right on there. And I'm going to use my multi-purpose liquid glue only because it'll give me a chance to shift it around to make sure that I've got all the edges lined up. Sometimes when I use snail or fast fuse, once you get it down, it's like, oh no, it's off center, and you got to try to peel it apart. And so I like to use, I'm using my multi-purpose glue a lot more than I ever have. So we're just going to line it up on there. Shift it around. I think we're good. Okay. So on this card, what I've done is I've used the brick wall embossing folder, and I'm using smoky slate, and I did some sponging to enhance it a little bit so that the texture really shows. So what I've done is I've taken, this is a 6x6 piece, because this is a larger embossing folder, and I'm going to emboss the whole thing. I don't need the whole thing, but if you look at my card, I've cut out some sections to create some steps, so that way you get a whole piece covered, and you can decide what sections you want to use. So, put that in there, and I'm going to take this plate away. Because these are larger embossing folders, I like to really make sure everything is lined up, because I have had them ruined by sometimes my stamp groups weren't paying attention and they run the edge off and it cuts into the embossing folder. So I really like to make sure they're lined up. Everything is lined up square. Okay. All right, so now I'm going to sponge this with some smoky slate, just to create some more texture in it. And it'll really enhance the mortar sections of the brick. So I will start just by doing it this way. I should really put a piece of protective paper on my table, but and it gives it more a distressed look, and looks like a castle wall. My theory in making this card with the dragon and the wizard and the soul and the knight was that, you know, the bad stuff is the dragon, and they're fighting it with the knight and the wizard. So. All right, so now I'm going to cut another piece. Again, this was 5.5 by 2.5. So I'm going to cut a piece of this at 5.5 by 2.5 and put that on first before I put my characters on. Oops, that's my scoring tool. That went really good. Oh no, what did I do? Must have moved it. And 5.5. Okay. All right. So this can go on the front just like that. And again, I'm going to choose to use my multi-purpose glue. Same reason. I'll make sure I line it up, but you can use whatever adhesive you prefer. And I won't go through the whole process of cutting out the bricks and whatnot, because I think you get that idea. You just can cut out sections of brick and attach it on. But I've already colored my, I already stamped and colored and cut out my wizards and my dragon and whatnot. So those will just go on here. Just line up there. Ah. Oh no, glue on the front of the card. Great. Get my paper towel too. Get that off quickly. And the knight. There. So as I said, just for the sake of time, I won't go through cutting out all the bricks and whatnot. But as you can see, what I did on this card is, if you look at it this way, you can see I've cut out the bricks, popped them up with Stampin' Dimensionals, so it looks like they're standing on part of the wall or steps of the castle. And then I just did my sentiment with the banner and popped that up on Stampin' Dimensionals, and there you go. So I hope you enjoy and try this technique. You can use it with any kind of stamps. I did do another video using the wine glass from Half Full stamp set, which actually is still available if you are interested. It's carried over from the holiday catalog, and I will post a link to that one as well. But anyway, so I hope you enjoyed this technique, and I hope you try it, and would love to hear from you how it went. Thanks a lot. Bye-bye.